The Wellness Show, episode number 431.
Welcome to The Wellness Show. I'm your host, Tyhson Banighen, the founder of the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy. Join me as we get the latest insight, tips, and strategies from wellness providers, coaches, and successful, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and much, much more. Welcome to the Wellness Show, and for the return visit, we have Lois Gueret, the one and only, and just a little bit about who she is. She's been around the block a lot and has many, many experiences. She's one of the ways in which she felt that it was necessary to be able to explain to others her uniqueness was to become a reverend, and I always liked that about her, is that she got reverend in front of her name because it helped people understand that, I know what a reverend is. But the other part of her, she's a rescue medium. She's a paranormal consultant. She's all a metaphysical minister, spirit medium, and healer. She's been working in this field for 35 years or more. She published her first book, Oh, the F, You Mean There's More? She has a Facebook group of which I'm part of with the same title, which is really a treat because people are very, very honest about what's happening in their lives and what's going on as we go through these massive personal and planetary changes and transformation. It's good to be in a group of like-minded people where you can say, what the F is going on anyway? Am I just crazy, or are we crazy together? So welcome back to the show. And the last time we talked, you were getting ready to take your book to a publisher, and now you're done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what a long journey that was, but it's over with now. So we can't live in the past. We're going to move forward.
Yes, really.
And yeah, I have a copy of it here. I'm going to flash it because I'm promoting myself. The cover was done by my daughter. He's a graphic artist that works for a printer company in New Westminster.
And the thing about that is that's really somewhat showing one of your passions, right? And that is contacting ETs, right? Where there's a whole protocol.
Yes.
So it really harkens to that, the amount of time that you spent outdoors running that protocol to have that opportunity to talk to ETs.
Yes, it does. It was perfect. She came up with, I just said, I wanted that color. I wanted that blue to black type of color, a teal type of color, and she came up with everything else all herself. So
yeah, nice.
I'm very happy with it. Yes. So it's exciting. I still, because I'm a first-time author or publisher of a book. I've done other things, but this is the first time with a book. It's still all really new, and I can honestly say I'm making it up as I'm going along. Lots of learning involved still.
Well, I think we make up our life as we go along, so that's nothing new, right?
That's nothing new. Yeah. It means the future is ours to create.
Absolutely. So we've just been through a really, really intense year. And as I say, being a member of that group online has been really helpful about what is the F going on anyway, because it's been like crazy, the roller coaster ride, sometimes up, and I'm sure the fifth dimension is tomorrow, and the next time it seems like, it's centuries away, so, where are we in this whole journey?
Well, as far as that goes, my spirit guides told me, I think it was in 2016, that we have a long haul ahead of us still. We won't actually be in the fifth dimensional energies till like 2027 or so. So there's still lots of work to come. Yes.
Right. We're doing the groundwork.
Yes, we're doing the groundwork. The reason we need to do such a large amount of preparation is that in fifth dimensional energies, there's no safety valves or stop valves for manifestation. So if we're not of the right mindset, we could create something that we really don't want.
Yeah, and that's what I
So
tell my clients is, I'm glad I can't manifest instantaneously
yeah,
because it would be a real big mess.
it would be a big mess. I'm certainly not ready for it.
No, I'm not ready.
And as far as defining, we can't really define that yet because it's not definable. The fifth dimension is really a step up and beyond from anything we've experienced right now, and the language, the lexicon will be completely different. And,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So what do you feel about some of the beliefs around that we're in for a whole, financial reset and all that? Is that sort of something that you think is coming down the pike? Like literally, and maybe not the fifth dimension in the way that we're talking about, where everything is instantaneously manifested into reality, but we are in a major global shift in consciousness here on every level: social, political, industrial, financial. Everything is what is no longer valid, right?
That's true. That's very true. So I think that it's something we need to be very aware of. We need to be paying attention. We are in a big shift, and our system that we've been surviving on for up till, I don't know, probably up till 2012 is when it started to disintegrate permanently.
Mm-hmm.
That all has to change because we do need something different. It's no longer going to function. And the big thing that I noticed was that the powers that be, when we go into the conspiracy world and we talk about there being some controlling factions or factors or families or whatever you want to call it, that the some people say it's the 1% who have most of the money. They have decided, or they have recognized, that the system they set up is failing. So they're keen to shift things too. So we have to be really diligent on being the 98% or the 99%, and we have to realize that with that comes some power, and we can create our future. They don't need to be in control anymore.
Yeah, and they're really, really struggling like crazy to try and make that 1%, be the dominant paradigm that we will be moving into. So,
yeah,
I think it's safe to say they're not going to succeed in the long run, but it certainly doesn't look good in the short run. But
yeah. So we have to be wary of them. Okay, so Catherine Austin Fitz is somebody that I follow quite a bit. And she talks about it this way. She says that we're changing from currency into a credit system. And we have to be careful with things like universal income. When we're talking about a global universal income system, that's quite scary. But if we were to break it down to community-based, where we had our own finances under our control in a smaller measure, then it works. So we have to be careful what's being created. We don't want the global, everyone's got a universal income to actually manifest.
Well, that's certainly in the local currencies. I mean, we had some in the shoe shop, which was really quite exciting to work with, where most of it is trade, but the dollar exchange is really the hour of trade that you're using, right?
Right.
It was really powerful, and Ithaca and New York has been doing that for years. The local currencies are extremely powerful. So recycling that energy within the community where we're helping each other, very powerful.
Yeah, so no one gets to control that from you. They can't come along and say, so if we had a global universal income, for instance, they can't come along and say, well, you have infractions against you, so right, you're only going to get 30 credits this month because, instead of the 35, we're noticing that you're not a cooperative citizen.
Yeah, well, this is what the whole pandemic is all about. Is either you really behave or you won't get any credits. You can't play the bigger game unless you behave yourself. So
we have to.
But you and I have never been good at behaving ourselves anyway. So.
No, I won't last long if that's the system that comes into play. Yeah.
So I know you have a number of points that you want to cover, so I guess we should get to her.
Sure. I thought that I'd spend some time talking about empaths and sensitive people. because one of the biggest things that I struggled with in 2020 was something I call empathic overload,
Yeah,
where I
absolutely.
was just so inundated that everybody was having such a high emotional reaction to what was going on. And it was very diverse and eclectic and aggressive. And I spent most of 2021 just disconnecting. I would get wrapped up in it and then realize, no, wait a minute, you got to stop. So I disconnect and I disconnected and I disconnected. So it was very disjointed for me. But what I've noticed probably sometime in the middle of December of 2020 was that things changed and I was able to sustain a connection again. I think
Now, when
that,
you say connection, you mean a connection to source or connection to your guidance, or is that what you mean?
well, with empathic abilities, we're connected. We're not just receivers; we're transmitters. So there's a grid, or I call it a grid, that's around the planet, this specifically for empathic communication. And there's a level of healing, intuitive healing, and sensitivity that comes along with that. So when an empath is functioning properly and the conditions are right on the planet, we can influence change by being empathic. We can resonate with each other within this grid and help create what it is that's in the collective consciousness or the universal consciousness. Now, we're closer to that as of the middle of December, but we had a whole year there that was basically a no-show, where not too many people were able to sustain a connection to that empathic grid for very long.
That's really interesting. What we've been working on in a group is learning the sacredness of 12 around 1 and how that has a multiplier effect that creates, call it a vessel or a crucible for major change and transformation, both at individual and
Yes.
planetary level.
Yes.
And that helps sustain that incubation of what it is that you want to create. And so it's like we're moving from individual consciousness more into group consciousness of like-minded
Yes.
people.
Yes, I believe that we are, yeah. But we had a lot of junk to clean out. I think that was part of 2020. When we were all having that sensitivity, I believe that we were learning control. And yeah, so later on I'll touch base on this, but there was stages to it too. And I've pretty much seen everybody go through their own version of those stages. Some people are at different points, but the end result of it was having different sources of knowledge and being able to have a balanced perspective as opposed to resonating like a pendulum. One moment you're like, oh, why isn't everybody wearing masks? And then the next moment you're like, oh my God, there's corruption out there and they're not telling us the truth. So yeah, so if you could find that middle ground, it helps, because
it certainly was hard for me to do that. I mean, I was deep into conspiracy theory, and then I was still listening to the news and trying to put those two together, which is like left brain and right brain or no brain. Yeah. And I finally had to just let go of both of them, right?
Yeah. Well, I still can't believe how much misinformation is passing as news.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
And I touch on this later on also today, is that one of the biggest ones that made me laugh was what they were quoting had nothing to do with science whatsoever.
No.
And even what was being passed for science, like a scientific study or empirical proof or any of those things, had been so washed down and manipulated that it was ridiculous.
Yeah, the politicization, I can't even say it, of science, right?
Yes, yes. How did that get into there?
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be the detached observer, but that doesn't work either, because just observing the experiment changes it. So there's no such thing as a scientific, non-biased, detached observer. So the whole methodology is flawed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there is always a bias.
There's always a
Yeah.
bias. And it's good to know what our biases are. And like you said, trying to get to neutral is trying to learn to become unbiased, right?
Yes. Yes. Which can be that can be a higher form of unconditional love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So, we're shifting from people who are sensitive or empathic over to being more compassionate. And that's part of that too.
Mm-hmm.
And as we shift, we have to find new language. So we have to use things like compassion, caring, communion, communication, universal. We have to find ways that our language starts reflecting that, because as we all know, part of being empathic is also having a vibrational frequency. And on this planet, that comes down to vocalization.
Interesting. So, I guess really reconciliation and forgiveness of self and others would be part of that then as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And renewal, there's a good one. Don Elzer talks about that a lot. Renewal, that's a great word.
Yeah, it is. And it's almost, I like what Charlie says, Charlie Riverman talks about, that it's remembering who we are. He talked to us about it that way. It's not as though we don't know this. It's just like, it's almost in our DNA, and we're remembering who we truly are. It's sort of like we're waking up out of the fog, so to speak.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we're reclaiming.
Reclaiming is another good one, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up here today is becoming or returning to being stewards of the planet. That's part of that reclaiming who we are.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And being equal spiritual, sensitive people, or equal spiritual warriors, bringing ecology and spirituality together as one concept is really what I'm all about. Absolutely.
Yes, and in activism. Although that's a sensitive word for some people, they don't really like it, but I still think that I'm a spiritual activist.
Well, you can be, I mean, I call it, I'm a stealth warrior. That just means I don't put my head up over the horizon so I can get clobbered, right?
That's right.
It doesn't mean I don't do spiritual action. Absolutely. I do alchemy and transmutation and, I even, some people might even call it Wiccan, but, that's my divine right to create the world I want to live in. I'm just not going to poke the dinosaur thrashing around in the swamp, right?
Yes. Now, how did you find that 2020 helped you refine that?
I think the biggest thing for me was what we were talking about is to let go of trying to figure anything out.
Yeah.
There's nothing to figure out. And also to letting go of the addiction, which is for me is addictive as crack cocaine, although I've never done crack cocaine, which is I have to do in order to succeed. And so letting go of those myths that come from the patriarchy and allowing myself to know that I will be guided to be at the right place at the right time, to be informed in the way that I need to be informed. And it doesn't necessarily need to come from books. Like I don't have to be searching for the answer anymore. In fact, it'd be better if I was just still and listen. But that's really hard for me to do. So I'm still learning how to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that, I think I probably share that problem with you too.
Yeah, I'm pretty addicted to my books.
I can get ahead of myself, that's for sure. And I'll often do the exact opposite of that. I'll say, okay, for the next 2 months, I'm not going to have any other source except for that of my guides and my own intuition.
And how do you find that?
I find it's refreshing, and I'm often surprised when I come out of it and I back check and find out, okay, did I understand how that was being interpreted for me, or did I get it right? Or, you know what I mean? I can look back and say, okay, I went off on this tangent, but I had misunderstood where it was going, or this was spot on and that was spot on. Yeah.
So what takes you in and what takes you out?
Of doing that?
Yeah, I'm doing that. I mean, you said you were there almost for months, and then you decided you weren't, or were you? Did you kick yourself out, or do something that got you out, or?
That's a good question. I'm usually brought out by something. So I
Ah,
go into it intentionally and
yeah.
something brings me out. Something says, okay, it's time for you to take a look around and get a check again and
So it's
make
sort of
sure
like a
that you're still on
reality
track.
check.
Yes, yes.
Well, that makes sense. When you think about all the mystics, right? They all had the same experience of being divinely connected with all that is, or God, or however you want to, but they all interpreted it according to their beliefs, their religion, their culture, and their tradition. So it makes sense to have a reality check about, because we can't help being who we are and how we translate the divine coming through us, right? We're going to have that our own humanness mixed into it. So,
Yeah,
checking out whether there's information that corresponds to that. I think that's why I really like, what the F as a group is like. Am I the only one that's crazy on the planet, or are other people experiencing this as well, right? Like,
that's right. That's right.
yeah,
And we've
yeah,
done a really good job to have the integrity with that.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah. So we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here to do with being stewards of the planet again.
yeah.
I think that we have reached a tipping point that because of the way that 2020 played out, that we were able to have these moments in time where we unplugged. We saw this incredible thing happen in the spring with pollution
Mm-hmm.
and our impact that we actually have on the planet. And when we stopped all that, when the planes stood grounded and the cars stood on our driveway because we weren't driving around as much, um, there was this, I guess, aha moment collectively where we all got it and realized that, okay, so we do have a huge influence on the environment. We can come back to a natural state and we can unplug, we can uh, turn our um, energies away from being corporate to coming back to more of a stewardship with the planet. And I think that's still here. I think that we reached a tipping point. And with that came a lot of, um, like I was saying earlier when we were talking before, the innovation and transition that we're going to experience in 2021 is going to be to do specifically with returning to a more natural state where wouldn't it be wonderful if we went back to realizing that it's not about productivity as much as it is about creativity
Right. Or connectivity.
or connectivity? Yes. So we don't have to have a 9 to 5 job for 5 days a week or whatever it is that you work. We can have various versions of that and still make a productive um, objective in society. We don't have to be these work monkeys, right?
Yeah, isn't it? Wouldn't it be nice? I mean, right now I'm doing being part of the book club with the book here, which is the artist's way, which is another way of looking at,
Oh, yes.
instead of work, being an artist. Like when you're an artist, you're creating with the divine energy. It flows through you, and there's no separation. And if we're living our lives as artists rather than as workers or worker bees or going to work, and then that creativity will flow through, and we'll be honoring the spirit within us, right? Our creative juices will be flowing, and we'll be inspired to do what we're called to do. So,
Yeah. Doing what you love to make a living rather than living, just barely living by doing what other people are telling you need to do.
right, exactly.
I mean, yeah. And I think we all got that because we had to self isolate, because things got shut down. People were working from home. And I know it was really rough for a lot of people, and a lot of people suffered last year. The whole locusts and all that happened in Africa in the spring was horrific. And many people went back to starving because they shut down the food chain. Now, I know those things happen, but at the same time, we had a lot of good things happen by having had those experiences in 2020. So, and I think that no matter what, so I used to have a friend who said that if there was a hot, sunny, beautiful summer in BC, that meant that somewhere else there was nothing but rain and flooding and failed crops. And so the planet has these ways of balancing things out, right, that we don't quite understand. We could work with them and make them more centered, but yeah.
That's a really interesting point. Certainly as a geomancer, when you're working with earth energies, is you may want to alter the energy of a place for certain reasons, but I certainly learned it quickly that you want to put it back the way it was when it leaves the property or the area that you're working on. Or you want to alter the weather because there's a wedding. Well, that, stopping that rain there might be fine, but what about the rain further on down? So you have to make that agreement that as soon as the wedding is over, that it goes back to the way it was.
Goes back to the way it was, So that's the beauty of being an empath. You can be a transmitter because you can make those subtle adjustments and bring things back to centered.
Yeah, absolutely.
A more practical version would be because we have an increasing amount of higher temperatures in BC and forest fires and things that are related to that, and less rain during the summer months. If we were to, as a community or as a provincial community, if we were able to take that back to let's plant more trees, can you imagine the changes that would happen?
Absolutely.
Less pavement, less cement, less pavement, more trees, and more natural ground covering. And hey, you don't know, it could just completely correct it.
Yeah, I actually wrote a whole paper that I presented to the World Bank on eco-forest trust, or a global forest trust, as being the way of handling the CO2 emissions, right? And I did submit it, but I was told, well, where's the economics in it, right? You haven't given us an economic analysis of your idea. I said, well, you're the economist. I'm the guy that has the idea.
That's
but
right.
That didn't go over, right? I had to have the economics, or they wouldn't even look at it. So
yes, I think that's going to change. That's coming in our future, where that is not the focus anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
That we will trust that will follow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's it's self-evident to me that it would follow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you treat trees properly, you have a legacy from generation to generation to generation that modifies, and the weather and sustains it from one generation to the next. And why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yes, exactly. So where is our head been for the last, I don't know, 100 years, if not more?
Or more, yeah.
It's probably more.
Probably more.
Yeah. So now that we're in 2021, do you still have residual stress from last year?
Well, I think with the death of my partner, that's really put everything topsy-turvy and put me into the greatest fear I've had, which is around manifestation of the dollars and cents. And so for me, the biggest thing is getting out of fear. It has been of realizing that this is all doable. And I have no evidence whatsoever on the third dimension that this is possible. Like, my income is like really low compared to any other time in my life. And I have like half the income that I've ever had. Yet I feel this will be the most prosperous, abundant year that I've ever had. So the two are like, they coexist, but there's no connection whatsoever in reality that I can see. Yet I know in my heart of hearts that it's true. So how that's going to manifest, and I think that's part of teaching me that the way that I did approach life of working hard and doing all that is irrelevant. It's got nothing to do.
It has nothing to do with it. It's nothing to do with it whatsoever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I was working with a client this morning from India who's having manifestation energy, and I said, well, you have Lakshmi, who, is that god of prosperity. Fall in love with her, you know, fall in love with money, with the divine. Right? I mean, it's a sacred flow of energy. It's Kundalini. It's psycho, spiritual, sexual energy. If you don't love the money, how if I was a diva of money and you didn't love me, and why would I want to work with you, right?
Yes.
So,
So
this is a new understanding for me about the importance of loving it, right?
Yes. Well, if you can use it as use prosperity as your path through all that, the money comes as a result of having a prosperous mind and a prosperous life.
Yeah,
so
and what's
for
happened?
me,
Go, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
so I think that the dictionary has it backwards. They talk about abundance this way, but I actually believe that prosperity is this way. That it's what we resonate with, and it's what gets things flowing for us. So,
and it's our birthright. That's just what's so
birthright.
amazing, right? It's our birthright. It's
Yeah.
by mere fact we incarnate on the planet. We have unlimited abundance or prosperity. So it's like anything else. How did we get in our own way to deny what we've been given?
Yeah, we took the red pill when we should have taken the blue pill.
Right. I'm looking for that
versa.
pill. Where is that pill? Anyway.
I don't know where that pill is. Maybe we need to dream about it.
What I am finding about money and prosperity and abundance is the little community of like-minded people that I'm so blessed with to be with. That flow of abundance and exchange is just extraordinary. And so luscious and so full of hugs and sweetness and divinity and friendship and fellowship that I want more, and I would want more for everybody to have that experience, right?
Yes. And I should also say here that I was really sorry to hear about Sarah.
Yeah, me too.
And she was very visual for me on the other side, and she did an incredible job. I can only hope that when I step over into the veil, I handle it as well as she seemed to handle it. It was wonderful.
Well, their preparation was like a grand master on this side. I mean, it was really
I bet.
It was amazing, right? I mean, I look back, it was all shocking for all of us on this dimension, but who else who else has a celebration, a dinner and then departs, right?
Yes. Yeah, she had everything just perfect. Yes.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So I think that when I was asking about stress there, I think that a lot of us still carry quite a bit of stress with us.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was shocking. It was traumatic. I don't think it was one thing to say we knew something like this could happen someday, but then to actually have it happen and go through the experience in real time. And it's still, 2021 is going to be much different, but that aspect really isn't over yet. We're going to be still clearing out and letting go of stress coming up. In the book, I talk about some chakra changes, and I don't know if you got to that part with you reading it. Did you?
No, I didn't. So talk about it, because chakras has been sort of a topic that we've been going through as a group. So
yeah. I see some changes that might be controversial to our chakras, and the two that were really important with 2020 and going into 2021 are the one that's talked about in shamanic teachings, which is the Earth Star, and that's the one that's right at our feet, just into the planet. This Earth connection that we have, and it connects us through the planet to each other. So it's kind of a communal connection. Now that's also important because we are moving back to being stewards of the planet. And then the other one that started to show up in the early, somewhere between 2009 and 2015, depending on who you were. And it's the one that I see right at our knees. Now, a lot of people went through some sort of walking transition when it was developing. Some people developed arthritic knees, or they were sore. Some people talked about it being as if they were dragging their feet, or they felt heavy all of a sudden, like gravity had all of a sudden taken effect, and they were no longer stepping lightly. That one I call the Cathedral of Nature. And it connects your heart chakras to your earth star. So we have a more multidimensional way of being in tune with nature.
Interesting, because what I'm getting when you said that is what came through is, instead of being on our knees in supplication, or, being the servant, to the king or whatever.
Yeah.
We're on our knees and more in divinity and prayer with the Divine Mother or Mother Gaia. It's a whole new relationship, right?
It's a whole new relationship, yes. So those two are really important when you're dealing with the stress that happened in 2020. Yeah, so there were stages. I talked about that earlier too, and the first one being the shock and confusion. The moment where you went, what the heck is going on here, and how do I keep myself safe? It's really hard to keep yourself safe in some of the situations, right? We all had personal things that happened that shocked us, and friendships changed, relationships changed, and I hope nobody came out of it with regrets. And then after that was everybody seemed to have the need to have a voice. We really wanted to say, okay, everybody just do as they're told.
That's right. You're right and I'm wrong, or
you're right and I'm wrong. Yes. And then the other one was question everything. We're not being told the truth. Where's the truth? We can't find it. It's not there yet.
That's right. It's coming. It's coming, but not today.
There was a lot of opposition, and from that came another stage, which was anger. And it was directed at a different way depending on which side of the polarity you were on in the moment. But that anger was quite harmful and hard to go through.
Yeah, everybody was just accusing everybody else. It just was horrible.
Yes, and that's where I often laugh when someone would come at me with because science. And some of my friends will recognize me saying that. Jessica and I talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
But why is this happening? And the other one would say, because science.
Right.
That's why. Yes. And then the other stage from that was a bit more confusing because there was a lot of division. But what happened was large groups of people all of a sudden started saying, okay, well, I've been all over the spectrum. I've experienced both sides of this. Where's the middle ground? Yes. And they started to find middle ground again by, changing what their news source was, or basing things more on their experience rather than what they were being told they were experiencing. And then after that became the fact that, okay, well, now we do have some real knowledge. And that started to happen in December and is carried on into 2021 now. We do have valid science at this point where there is data that's been collected.
Yeah, and absolutely. And there are people speaking the truth from science, right?
From science, yes. All of a sudden, okay, well, we do have the data collected and we know what's going on. Italy's a great example of that. They had everything really shut down and they were acting in fear in the hospitals. And then all of a sudden they realized that their data was showing them that people were dying because they were afraid to come into the hospitals. They had bought into the whole, okay, we're going to be overwhelmed, so we want to control the curve. And they were actually dying of things that had nothing to do with the pandemic, like cancer and heart disease and all these preventable things. So they had to change what they were doing to make sure that nobody was feeling less valid in their health concerns than somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that. And I'm not saying that there isn't people out there who have suffered and been really sick with coronavirus. I know that there has. But we lost something when we decided that that was going to be the only thing that happened in 2020.
Yeah, we lost our integrity. I mean, our government lost our integrity.
Yeah.
Our health officials
Yeah.
lost their integrity. Everything,
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that Trump did teach us is fake news. And now we understand fake news is everywhere, right?
Yes. Yeah. I did already knew that.
Yeah,
But he really drilled it home
I
for
still
the bigger.
somehow had an addiction to, say, the national news and believed it somewhat, but now I can't even listen to it because it's telling me a lie that I can see right through, right?
Yes. Yes,
So
exactly.
it's changed, what would be normal for me is no more normal, right?
That's right. That's right. So from that, so to deal with our stress that we've got left over, if we
Yeah.
connect through our two chakras there, the Cathedral of Nature and our Earth Star again, and when we spend some time developing them, that stress can alleviate because we'll find our place. Again, we'll be able to find where we're supposed to be in not just a universal, not just a collective consciousness or a unity consciousness. We'll be able to switch over to universal consciousness, which is where we need to be when we get closer to the five-dimensional energies. You have to realize that it's not just about me. It's not just about my community. It's not just about my country. It's not just about my planet. It's about our place in the universe.
Right.
And that goes both on a spiritual level and in all other ways, on a scientific level, intellect, emotional, physical. We have to find that. And then, and only then, we'll be able to be invited into what is actually out there.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't sort of got our brownie points or earned our badges to even present ourselves.
No. Stephen Greer likes to say we haven't even become a level 1 civilization yet.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Everybody else is out there like level 15 and level 20, and here we are.
Yeah, we sort of in the stage of leveling our civilization.
Yes, we are. Yeah, but it could happen really fast. It could happen
I
exponentially.
pray that it happened. I don't know if I had a future jump in which I was part of a delegation. It doesn't matter that it was me. I don't mean this from ego. That we were actually presenting their credentials to the Intergalactic Federation to be accepted, and we had achieved world peace. So on some timeline somewhere, we've done it, right?
Did I ever tell you? I had a similar dream. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
About the delegation that I went to and the televised meeting? Do we have a moment so I can tell you that?
Sure, go for it.
Because
we've got a few more minutes.
It was when I completely changed my life and moved up to the Okanagan. I had this dream where there was this great big structure on the side of a mountain, and it was a great big spiraling ramp. And I was with hundreds of other people, and we were walking up this ramp to like a saucer-sized building or structure on the top of it. And I knew instinctively that I was going up there because there was a televised event, and all my friends were supposed to meet me. So I got up to the top, and there was 7 rooms, and they all had big screens, and in the center of it was what was being televised. And there was 7 tables with 7 people sitting around them in the center. And I went to all the rooms, and it was filling up, and I couldn't find my friends anywhere. So I stopped and was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here alone, which I wasn't very keen on? And I stopped right in the entranceway where the 7 tables with 7 people were. And some gentleman got up and walked over to me and said, "You look like you've forgotten where you're supposed to be." And I said, "Well, I thought I knew." And he said, "Well, your table's right over there." And I went and looked, and there was an empty chair, and sure enough, my name was sitting in front of it. So somehow I had gone from just being a participant to being, I was supposed to be part of what was happening that day.
Interesting.
Instead. Yeah, it was really interesting. And then I woke up. So I have no idea what we were discussing or what was being televised. I can only guess. But yeah, it was very interesting. And I'm hoping that somehow, well, I've seen different versions of that already happen.
Right.
But I'm hoping that somehow in the future that's going to manifest. So we've got 15 minutes left here. Should I quickly go through what I had left that I wanted to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. In the book, I talk about being your authentic mystic. That's being able to come back and be comfortable with being inside your own skin, basically, and resonating with that again. And I know that we all could use that in this year. We could all use coming back to who we really are and having a self-understanding of what it is that we're doing here and feel passionate about it again. And
I think allowing all of our clairs to be fully actualized and stay out of fear with regard to that.
That's right. And because we had to experience such heightened fear and anger and confusion in 2020, I think that cleared a lot of it out so that we now have room, or we've made space for ourselves to come back to that, to who we are authentically, and with compassion for ourselves and loving towards ourselves. Now, I call 2021 the year of innovation and transition. So I want to get to this point before we close here because it's really quite important. This is only the beginning of what it is that I see is supposed to be taking place in possibly the next 10 years. Because we had to shut down, and we basically we already have rebooted. So when they say, people who are trying to control things are saying that has yet to come. The reset has yet to come. I'm sorry, we've already reset.
Yeah, I think the establishment is beginning to realize that.
Yeah, no, it's already happened. They already lost control.
Right.
The passengers got up and moved the person out of the driver's seat, and we're now controlling the train. Yes. So because we've cleared the space, we have a open possibility for innovation. And a lot of us spent time self-reflecting because we didn't have anything to distract ourselves with, and because we were limited with our interactions for most of the year. This changed the way that we are on a chemical level, on a spiritual level, emotional and intellectual, and we've opened ourselves up for things that are going to come. Now, I know that a lot of businesses failed. A lot of mom and pop businesses have failed this year, which is hard for everybody. We economically took a hit, but economics needed to change. And during transition is often chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge of it, is to keep yourself above the chaos so that you can ride into what's supposed to be going on. But at the same time that I saw many people losing their businesses and places shutting down, I saw amazing innovation. And how quickly did we adapt to being an online presence?
Yeah, absolutely.
This has nothing to do with the stewardship of the planet, but there's a little catering company in Harrison Hot Springs that was just genius. She couldn't cater anymore. So what she did was she put out a weekly menu for Monday to Friday with 2 meals for dinner. $10 each were these meals. And they were amazing, wonderfully cooked, delicious, things that everybody would eat. And that's how she survived. And she's still functioning that way. And it's all online. She did this by just advertising on Facebook that this was available.
So she's selling the recipes or what?
No, she's selling the meals.
Oh, she's selling the meal.
You phone her up. You phone her up the day before, and you say, well, on Tuesday, I'd like to have your spaghetti and meatballs dinner. And my husband would like to have your taco dinner.
Right.
And they say, okay, well, we'll put you down. And then you go down there, you pay her with whatever you want, Interact, debit, cash, Visa, whatever. And she has your meal completely prepared and good to go, and you just bring it home and eat it.
Wonderful.
It's genius and simple. And I don't think that she will ever come back from that. I've heard a lot of places say, you know what, now that I've been able to work from home, I don't think I want to go back to an office.
Yeah,
Everything's
who wants to
working
go
fine
back
this
to an
way.
office, right? Who wants to
Right.
drive and go back to an office?
Yeah. My hairdresser said that she's perfectly happy locking the door after her client comes in forever, because it really bothered her that she would have nonstop people wandering in when she's trying to work. She works alone, right? It's
Right.
her own business. So she says, I'm never going to change that. This is the way that it's going to be from now on. Even if I don't have to wear this mask or these gloves anymore, the door's getting locked after you come in.
Nice.
Which is perfect. So we've opened the door for what is it that we really want. Our priorities have changed because we had a little taste of what could be possible. And it's sad that it has to rise up from the ashes of so many businesses that did fail, but it's happened so quickly. Now, the other thing, you touched on this earlier, and that is that this year is the year of contradictions. Everything is contrary. Now, what did you say? What was your contradiction? That, oh shoot, now I can't remember how you put it. Do you remember what it was that you said was your contradiction for this year?
Well, the big thing is that for me is working hard in order to succeed and make money.
Yes.
Versus falling in love with money as a divine energy and trusting guidance that I'll be in the right place at the right time, and that unlimited abundance is my birthright, which is a whole different way of looking at the world.
Yes, it is.
One's all fear-based and one's pure joy,
yes,
and ease and grace.
Yes. So this year, I'm just seeing the question here that Michael's got. I'll come back to that, Michael. I found that my contradictions have been that everything's slowing down, but they're also speeding up at the same time, which is really hard to get your mind around. So yes, a lot of things have closed, but there's also a lot of things that have opened. So I am sure that many other people can think of more than that, but this is going to be the year of contradictions. So watch for those contradictions and see them as a sign to start paying attention that you're supposed to be interacting. Yes. So the question's for you, Tyhson.
Yeah, the question was, he was saying on one level, there's no physical evidence of making any money and actually being worse off than any other time in my business, versus the feeling that there's unlimited abundance about to manifest this year.
Yes.
And the two are like two different.
That's right. That is the contradiction I was trying to remember. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Michael. Yes. So I also talk about something that I heard about probably in 2010, 2011, and that's the term economic democracy. And this also applies to you too, is that we can have the power to create in a democratic way with our money by where we put our money. And Robert and I have gone through a huge shift this year on where we buy our things from. We were bordering on being that way anyways, before that. But last year in 2020 for sure was a big shift over from I don't go into Walmart anymore. And if I do have to buy something, it usually ends up online, but that's really, really rare. I've done a really good job of supporting the mom and pop businesses like Lori's Catering, because, well, she's local. She lives in Harrison Hot Springs, but it's also really convenient, and she made it a really good option for us. I mean, you would go down and pick up dinner for $10 on a night when you don't feel like cooking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's a genius idea. So the other thing is, for everybody who's listening today, if you haven't already started to do that, start to do that. That's the direction we're going to be going to create what you and I were talking about in the beginning, to make sure that we become community-based economies rather than global economy with a credit system. We don't want to go the credit system. We want to stay community. And you can do that by shopping more locally, paying attention to what's going on in your neighborhood. And there's some really innovative and ingenious ways that this has happened. Another one is I have this, there's, I guess about 20 minutes from here, there's a farm that she does her own beauty products like soap and oils and makeup and lip balms and all that stuff. And it's a good price, it's a good product. And what she's had to do, because farmers markets didn't really do that well this year, is she's also 100% online. And you fill out your order form. She says your order is ready. Then you pay for it online, or you bring cash with you. And she leaves it all out in a bin at the front of her driveway. So your order's there in its own individual packaging, and you've either paid for it already, or you leave the cash right there.
Interesting. I mean, that's
it's just perfect.
We're doing the orders from Wildlife Farm too. Is that they box up your order and you pick up your box, right?
Yeah. So everybody has adapted, and then it's actually better. I'm okay with that. I'm okay that I don't have to go into the farmer's market and walk the entire thing and maybe end up spending money that I don't really want to.
Yeah, bringing back all sorts of goodies.
Yes, bringing back all sorts of goodies. I could just selectively shop the ones that I want online. Right. And yeah, it's perfect. And it's community based. Yeah. So that's the for 2021, that's one of the shifts that we have to make. We have to start focusing in on that.
So why don't you, in these last few minutes, tell people why they should be buying your book and reading your book?
I tried really hard to put a comprehensive guide to spiritual evolution in there. That was my real purpose behind doing it. I thought that as a minister, as a reverend, that I could take my ministry to more people by creating a book that had information in it. Now, I'm not your standard metaphysical minister, although that is where my degree is a metaphysics. I'm very eclectic. I have, of course, my mediumship background. I've got shamanic training, like I said, the metaphysical degree. I've got practical experience with working with people for almost 36 years now. And on a teaching level and as a medium with clients, and my paranormal experience, and then my personal experiences. So when I created the book, it was as a guide for spiritual evolution, and I hope it still presents that way. I've had some feedback recently that said I've done a really good job of communicating things in a way that other people can understand.
Yes, from your mom.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's a pretty nice compliment that your mom says, hey, I'm reading your book and I can understand what you're trying to say, right?
That's right. That's right. She's actually, Charlotte is a friend of yours, because she found a lot of the things that you were doing online very interesting. Nice. She was asking me, who's this Tyhson person? And then all of a sudden I realized it was a friend of yours, Lois. So who is he? So I was trying to explain that to her. But yeah, it was a great compliment to know that she could actually understand that when she didn't really have a background in what I was talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's really a good recommendation that, if you think you're a newbie, whatever a newbie is to this, don't, try
don't
it out.
Hesitate. Yeah,
try it out. And try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got lots of practical information. I've got lots of homework. I talk about things that you can practice that I've practiced myself. There's lots of personal stories. I went more personal than I really feel comfortable with.
I love your stories. I love your stories. The book wouldn't be the same without the stories. And don't forget, everybody, that there is the Facebook group too, where you can have that connection with Lois and with her tribe about asking all these questions and getting feedback about what wonderful, weird things are happening in your life and whether you're normal or not.
If you message me and say that, if you private message me on Facebook and say that you'd like to be a member of the group, I can invite you in there. I have it set for private right now, so you have to friend me and then get invited.
You have to behave yourself. Oh, well.
You have to behave yourself, yes. We do have a lot of integrity, and we like to be, nothing is focused on being right. Everybody's equally valid and precious.
That's right.
So,
and all of the opinions are respected, which is wonderful.
yes, that's right. Yeah.
So any last thoughts as we wrap this up? I mean, there are not any other thoughts as another book, but you know.
I wasn't sure if we could do it all in one session, because you and I still have lots of things that we should probably talk about. I'm hoping that the restrictions are lifted enough this year that I can come up to the Okanagan for a visit.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
It would be wonderful if Robert and I can come up there for like a month or so, and I can get a chance to tour around. And
are you in a do you have movable, or is where you live permanent? Like, is it all
where we live is permanent? Yeah. We're in a destination trailer, and it's set on this lot, and it's not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere.
And we have our 31-foot motorhome.
All right. So well, then, just to let you know, we've put in the water, and we have the pad for you. We don't have the septic, but we have the electrical hookup already for you when you arrive.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. So we will probably come and we'll take you up on that.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to go down and sit in Sarah's garden.
Yes.
I still see it as hers. I don't know if it was yours.
Yeah, we're going to have a sign that says Sarah's garden. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm still. She's still walking the garden, I'm sure, every morning.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, thank you ever so much. And so maybe we should do another show and go even deeper into the book, because we only just touched the surface part.
We only just touched the surface. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not expensive. I kept it pretty reasonable. The link on my website page takes you to the Friesen Press site, which is the best price out there. So that's exactly what I marketed it as. Don't buy it from Amazon if you see it getting up around $30. They're just trying to get more money out of you.
That's right. And we don't need that.
Oh, and as soon as I have it figured out, it's going to be for sale in Banyan Books in downtown Vancouver.
Oh,
I'm
wonderful.
Just working on the details.
All right. Well, we're going to have you back, and we'll come up with 5 more important things that we want to talk about that come from the book. So stay tuned. And if you go back and I think it's I can't remember what it is, but if you go to YouTube to the Wellness Academy and you just type in Lois's name, you'll find the interview. I think it's 213, if I remember correctly, about we're getting ready to publish the book, and there's lots of great information in there as well. So the 2 interviews really fit together.
Yes, they do.
314, Michael said. So so take a look at that interview, and we'll add another one to the list in the near future. All right. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Michael.
And thank you, Michael, for doing all of this. All right. Bye for now.
Bye.
For quality online wellness products, courses, and services, visit our sponsors, thewellnessstore.ca and the Extraordinary Healing Arts Academy located at thewellnessacademy.ca. To stay in touch, visit us at thewellnessshow.ca. And until next time, be healthy, wealthy, and wise.